everyone, Screaming Geek Media here. I am Jerry the Geek. Today's video is a 4K review, and we're going to talk about the G.I. Jane. But before we dive into this, if you like physical media, 4Ks, Blu-rays, even DVDs, check out my other videos on my channel because I do these reviews. I do unboxings. I do collection updates every month. I do different discussions. So check that stuff out. Hit the like button, subscribe. Turn your bell notifications on, and always feel free to comment below. Let me know what you think of anything. So let's get into a 4K review of G.I. Jane. I just got the other day. It comes out next month. But, a movie came out in 1997, got an R rating, got a Demi Moore, Viggo Mortensen, Anne Bancroft, and also Morse Chestnut. Didn't realize he was in it. Back in the day, you really didn't know the name, but now he's a little bit more popular. So it's kind of cool to see him. I was like watching, oh man, who is that? I couldn't think of his name right off the bat. And I was like, oh, that's who it is. And of course, this was directed by the great Ridley Scott. Basically you got Demi Moore playing a role. She's in the Navy. She's like an analyst, intelligence, all that kind of stuff. And then she's handpicked being this new program as far as women in the military, and she gets put into the Navy SEAL program. I've always enjoyed this movie. I'm glad it's got the 4K finally. So the 4K here comes from Imprint-Viavision. It's actually set, the official release date's like January 14th, I think. I ordered this directly from Imprint. So it got shipped out early, so I, got it finally. Now, the movie was filmed on 35mm, finished with HDR10 and Dolby Vision. Now, to start off, watching the 4K, I've got the older Blu-ray, but I'd never watched it because I had the DVD, picked up the Blu-ray, just never got around to watching the upgrade. So not being familiar with how it looked, so watching the 4K without remembering that, it looked good, but you have certain expectations when you watch 4K, and this one doesn't blow your mind. It does have an overall, soft look to it, very filmic, filtered look at times, and not as much detail and textures as you would expect to see. But that being said, it is good. It's not bad. It's just, so many times we set the bar very high to what we expect to see. And it just doesn't get that. But, some of the close-ups, the details of the skin, skin pores, facial stubble. So that looks really good at times. Some rich, vivid pops of color, especially like the American flags. Green grass, the water droplets, the rain, the shower. And then another standout moment I thought was, especially when it comes to military, the uniforms, the different embroidery on the hats and, the jackets and whatnot. When she gets to the base and you first meet the Master Chief and the commander, the commander is walking along, talking, and the hat, the gold embroidering on it, freaking stands out as very rich. You can see those details pop. So there are moments that this looks incredible, and then the rest of the time it just kind of has a soft filmic look to it. Now, as far as a Blu-ray comparison, I still have the original Blu-ray here, come from Hollywood Pictures, which is part of Disney. So never ever watching this one. I put this in after the 4K. And that's where it's like, wow, the 4K is really good. There is a considerable difference. The 4K is miles ahead of the Blu-ray. 4K has the colors are much richer than what the Blu-ray is. The Blu-ray looks a little bit less saturated, a little muted. And also overall, a lot of stuff, it just looked much like the brightness had been cranked up and gives it kind of a little bit of a washed out look. So where the 4K adds that, the HDR adds that a little bit, the higher contrast, gives it a more of a punch to it. And one of the highlights I mentioned about the gold embroidery on the hat, looking at it on the Blu-ray, it was just flat, no detail, no pop at all. So even though I would say this is not a reference disc, it's miles ahead of the Blu-ray. Now for the audio here, they gave us DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, where the Blu-ray actually had an uncompressed 5.1 track. So it's a nice solid track overall. You know, nice balance across the front. The dialogue was front and center, but there was a couple times there was some sound effects that was you were seeing in front of you, and it kind of came off to the side, which I don't like when that happens. Like, if I see it in front of me, I should hear it in front, not to the side. But that was only a couple times, so that was just me being a little bit nitpicky. But overall, really did have a good balance. Great use of surrounds. Nice ambience throughout. The gunfire was really intense. The bass was very deep during some of the explosions. The rain ambience coming around you, some of the thundering, some nice subtle sounds. The scene where she's doing some push-ups, and it's nice and quiet, and as she's doing the push-ups, and as she gets down to the floor, you can hear the dog tags hitting the floor each time. So that was pretty cool. So that's what I love most about audio tracks. I want those loud explosions, the deep bass, that rumbling, but at the same time, I want to hear those subtle sounds as well. That showcases an audio track when you hear that wide range there. Now, the drawback to the audio, with this being a DTS 5.1 and the Blu-ray having actually has Dolby Digital 5.1 and that uncompressed 5.1. The Blu-ray, that uncompressed track is actually a little bit more robust. It has a more fullness to it. Now, if you're not familiar with uncompressed audio, it's exactly that. I mean, normal audio like Dolby Digital, Dolby Atmos, it is a bit stream. It's actually compressed into a digital bit stream, and it sends to your receiver, and it's processed there. Now, an uncompressed track, it's actually, it's not compressed into a digital bit stream. It's actually processed in the DVD player, and it's sent that way in its pure form to the receiver. So the receiver does no processing whatsoever. It knows where it needs to send things. Now, so far in my experience with 4K, I don't think any 4Ks have uncompressed audio. Correct me if I'm wrong, and let me know in the comments below. I don't think they've used uncompressed audio on 4Ks. It's mainly with the Blu-rays. And so anytime, if you're watching a Blu-ray, if you have a choice of, Dolby Digital 5.1, DTS 5.1, or uncompressed, pick that uncompressed, because 99% of the time, that is going to be so much better. So as much as I love DTS, I've always been a DTS fanboy from day one. Back in the day, especially with DVD, Dolby Digital sucked. They could not hold a candle compared to DTS. It wasn't until Blu-ray that Dolby started improving their audio tracks and actually got up on the same level as DTS. So that is the only downside to the audio here, is that I thought the DTS track was a downgrade compared to what the Blu-ray had. Now let's talk about the packaging here. It has a nice little box. It has the card on the back that tells you everything that's on here. The nice box here. You got the front, the side, and then the bottom there, which I got right side up. And pop off the top. Actually comes with a book and the movie itself. The box itself is a nice, hard, rigid box. And it's it's a hardcover book. And it's got all kinds of information in it. And a lot of photos. And then toward the front, you got some reading material there. So that is pretty cool. And then you got the case itself. Standard keep case. All the info on the back. You got the 4K there. And then the Blu-ray, which the Blu-ray is region-free, so you don't have to worry about that. Oh, I forgot to look ahead of time. It doesn't have reversible cover art, but it does have artwork on the other side, which I'm not sure why they would do that. It's not a clear case, so it's like you're not going to see it. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. But nevertheless, it's got some extra artwork. If you don't want the printing, you can throw it around. I don't know. Now for the bonus features here. We got quite a bit. And we got some new stuff here, like some brand new interviews with the actor Jason B. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Bay, I'm not sure. But there's an interview with him there. There's also another brand new interview with production designer Arthur Max. And then another brand new interview with editor Petros Scalia. And the rest is all some, they got a lot of archival interviews from 1997 with cast and crew, Demi, director Ridley Scott, Viggo Mortensen, and then Jason again. We got alternate opening, and then we got some B-roll stuff. And also we got audio commentary with Ridley Scott, which is actually archived from 1997. So even though the archival interviews are, old, they're not on the Blu-ray. Because the Blu-ray, the only bonus features is it's called Movie Showcase, or they just give you a few selected scenes, highlights from the movie. So this is just a bare bones edition on the Blu-ray. So all that, they dug up all these old archival interviews through on here, along with some brand new stuff. And all that stuff is on the Blu-ray, not the 4K. Now to wrap it up, again, although this isn't a reference disc by all means, it's not gonna top your list, best of the year. It is far ahead of this Blu-ray. I mean, I'll give it that. Again, I never watched this until after the 4K, and I was like, yeah, this is just. I mean, it looks decent, but compared to 4K, it looks like crap. So if you want this, it is still available to pre-order from multiple places. As far as pricing go, this is an expensive edition. So this isn't going to be for everyone. I mean, to buy it directly from Imprint, the exchange rate, it's $79.22 US. But as far as the shipping, it's going to cost quite a bit to get this shipped directly from Imprint. Now, even though I could have ordered this from some other places, I ordered this right away because this is owned by Disney. And I was just ecstatic to see, wow, a Disney movie is going to a boutique label. And it was a good movie. And so it's like, I didn't care what the cost was. I had to order this through them. I'm hoping that we will see more Disney titles go to, boutique labels. I'm hoping this opens the door. We see more because Disney doesn't give a shit. But anyways, your other choices, Diabolic and Orbit DVD, both have this available. Both are the same price, $84.99. Which, yeah, it's a few dollars more than Imprint, but the shipping is going to be much cheaper. And there's also another place, it's called Movie Room. I never heard of them until recently. Ken over at Mid-Level Media, he's talked about it. So I looked them up, and they got a lot of good stuff, too. They're a distributor, getting a lot of import stuff. You can get it through them for $87.99. But they offer free shipping for anything over $75. So that being said, if you want this, if you're willing to pay that kind of money, the Movie Room is going to be your best choice. Again, I paid a lot more than that because get it through Imprint because I was ecstatic and wanted to get it, and who knows how long it was going to be available because it was Disney. And plus, I've already got it. I have not seen anyone else talk about this yet. So as far as Diabolic, Orbit, or Movie Room, I don't know if their shipping theirs out yet. If you have ordered from someone else and you've got notifications, please comment below. I'm just kind of curious as far as a time frame. Was it worth spending all this extra money to have it this early? When is everyone else getting theirs? So I'm looking forward to seeing more about when people are getting this. So in the future, is like, when Imprint announces something, do I want to spend the extra money to get it early, or am I good to wait and save some money? So there's a lot to consider when ordering these expensive editions. So that pretty much does it for my look at the G.I. Jane 4K edition from Imprint. Please comment below, let me know what you think. Is this something that you're interested in getting? Are you willing to pay that kind of money? Or are you going to wait to see if they have another version available? As far as Imprint, their website, there's no Blu-rays available, no standard 4K. Just they do have a DVD with the 4K restoration on it. So that's always an option if you don't care. I mean, even the DVD might even look better than this old Blu-ray. Who knows? Maybe in time they'll have a standard available if you want to wait. But if you don't mind spending money, I would recommend getting it because if you don't, if you're not familiar with the Imprint, I got the Convoy. I did a review of that last year. It was about the same thing. Had this nice little box set. They do some nice work, and the 4K looked, again, it wasn't referenced, but it looked pretty good compared to the Blu-ray. So check out my other videos on my channel. Like, subscribe, turn your bell notifications on, and we'll see you soon. Geek out.